أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يعدي حقه المجتهدون. ثم الصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين، الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين، والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الرضوية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والحيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قلنا للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra in particular, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, and to offer condolences towards him, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The story of Nabi Adam alayhi salam is a story which has been mentioned in 7 places across the Holy Quran. And the most in-depth of those 7 places occur in Surah Al-Baqarah between verses 30 and 39 of that chapter. And they occur secondly within the 7th chapter of the Holy Quran. You see, the importance of the story of Adam in light of this discussion of understanding what it means to be a human being and the essence and that nature which is within us is that when you examine Adam within the Quran, at one level, Adam represents a historical personality, a prophet of God who lived within a time and within a place. But at the second level, when Allah refers to Adam within the Quran, Adam is also a representation of the human species. In other words, that when you look at all of these different incidents that take place within the story of Adam, each of these incidents, they reflect that what does it mean for us as a human species? That in the way Adam goes through all of these different tests, all of these different trials, that his status is shown in front of the angels. At the second level, all of these tests, trials, and status belongs to the human being as well. And that's why if we're going to understand ourselves properly in terms of being human beings, we need to understand the story of Adam properly. Because if one misunderstands the story of Adam, then you find the natural extension of that is that you'll misunderstand what does it mean to be a human upon this earth. And the finest example of this is what you find within the Old Testament. That Nabi Adam alayhi salam is not just a prophet who is remembered by the Muslims, but rather those who believe in the Old Testament, namely the Christians and the Jews, they also have an understanding of Nabi Adam. But based upon what is presented in the Old Testament, you find because there is a misunderstanding of the story of Adam, by extension, there is a misunderstanding of the position of mankind. For example, within the Old Testament, you find at the first level, the first example of this is that it is mentioned that that tree which God prohibits Adam to eat from is the tree of knowledge. If you believe this portion of the story, then the natural extension of that is that God wants to keep man in a state of ignorance. Because if man becomes too aware, then you find that he becomes a threat to the heavens. So you find that is a very different understanding. At the second level, they stated that Adam had sinned, and because of that, he was expelled from paradise and he came upon this earth. So if Adam had sinned, and the nature of Adam is to sin, then by extension, the nature of man is to sin. So you see, these two key elements of misunderstanding in the story of Adam have a very profound impact upon the understanding of man that is offered through this story. So you find the subject of analysis tonight is examining this story in order that we can understand what is the true nature of man. But this incident and this analysis also carries a value in understanding Sayyid al-Shuhada. Because when you look at many of our ziyarat, not just ziyaratul waritha, for example, when you look in ziyaratul nahiya, or you look in some of the ziyarat that you recite when you visit Karbala, how do we address Imam al-Hussein? We say, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam safwatillah. That, O Hussein, salam be upon you, for you are the inheritor of Adam, the one who was the chosen of Allah. You know, safwa in the Arabic language, when you boil milk, and there is a layer of cream on top of that milk which forms, you call that safwa literally in the Arabic language. The reason Adam was called Safwatullah is that God chooses Adam as his first representative upon this earth. And Imam al-Hussein is called the inheritor of Adam for a number of reasons. The first of those reasons is that in the way Adam was the choice of Allah, Imam al-Hussein is also the choice of Allah. And in the way that Iblis rejected Adam when Allah said prostrate before Adam, those who reject Sayyid al-Shuhada, they are following the path of Iblis, the one who rejected the Khalifa of Allah. But at the second level, you find the reason in this ziyarah that we say, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam safwatillah, is that Adam is a representation of the human species. And Adam is a representation of the potential of a human species. You see, the moment God said in the story that I'm going to create Adam, the angels, they begin to object towards Allah. And they say, you're going to create a creation who is going to shed blood upon the earth. And this creation is going to cause corruption while we praise you and we sanctify you. Allah said that I know what you don't know. You know, Ayatollah Wahid Khurasani, he says a very interesting line. He would say perhaps Allah would turn to the angels when the event of Karbala happened. And he would look at Hussein and the companions of Hussein and he would say to them, now do you understand why I said I know what you don't know? In other words, you objected to this human being, but I recognized the immense potential within him. Then that Imam al-Hussein in Karbala showed that maximum potential of an insan. That difficulty after difficulty, 3 days without food, 3 days without water, bearing one family member after another. But this individual, he stands in such a manner that Hamid ibn Muslim, he says, that when I would watch Hussein fight in his final moments, مَا رَأَيْتُ مَقْتُورًا قَطْ. He says, never have I seen an individual with that much valor within him. قُتِلَ أَهْلُ بَيْتِهِ وَوُلْدُهُ وَأَصْحَابُهُ. His family, his companions, and his children have been killed. But he does not look as if he is a man who has lost his spirit in any ways. You see, Assalamu alayka ya warit Adam safwatillah. This line is showing that Adam was God's choice. Adam represents the potential of insan. But today, look at Hussein who actualized that. You see, when you look in the movement of Imam al-Hussein, and in reality, when you look at all of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, our narrations, whether they're mentioning their sermons or there are hadith and traditions about them, they are full of symbolism. And that symbolism links these individuals with the Anbiya of God. Time and time again, Imam al-Hussein and the rest of Ahlul Bayt, they wanted to show that our message is a continuation of their message. And what we are doing is a preservation of their efforts. Whether it is that tradition of Rasulullah in the Haqq of Amir al-Mu'mineen, where the Prophet, he says that man arada an yandura ila Adama fi ilmihi, wa ila Nuhin fi hilmihi, wa ila Musa fi haybatihi, wa ila Isa fi ruhihi. That the one who wants to look at the knowledge of Adam and the forbearance of Noah, and he wants to look at the grandeur of Musa and the spirit of Isa, then go and look at Ali ibn Abi Talib. Or whether it is the sermons of Imam al-Hussein demonstrating this link with the Anbiya. You know, Imam Zainul Abidin salawatullahi wassalamuhu alayhi, Imam Zainul Abidin very famously would say that there was not a halting station, there was not a manzil, a place where we would stop on the journey to Karbala, except for that my father would mention Yahya, that he would mention John the Baptist. So we find that Imam al-Hussein, he goes through a great effort to show that I am a continuation of these individuals. And the first of those individuals is Adam. And you find the first incident, the first mention of Adam within the Quran, it occurs in Surah Al-Baqarah in chapter 2, verse 30. When Allah, he begins the mention of Adam within the Quran, he says, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. That remember, O Prophet, when we said to the angels that I am creating a vicegerent, a khalifa upon this earth. You see, just from this one line, that the moment that Adam was intended to be created, Allah described Adam as being his caliph, as being his vicegerent, as being his khalifa. The first understanding that we can take from this is that the position of God's khilafat and God's vicegerency is so important that if Allah is going to create the first human being, then it is necessary that that first human being is the Khalifa of Allah. That is why we within the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we have a set of narrations that say, لَوْلَا الْحُجَّةَ لَسَاخَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِأَهْلِهَا. That if it wasn't for the fact that there was a divine guide upon this earth, then this earth itself would collapse. What does this mean? This means that if there was not a divine guide who was giving the message of God, then there would be no purpose. If the human beings do not know what their purpose is, then it is useless for them to exist, because God does not do anything without a purpose. And over here, God is showing that I did not send a human being and I sent my caliph afterwards. But no, the first human being that I sent, Adam, this first human being was my representative. And he is the one who carries out my message. He is the one who gives my guidance. So you find this is the first aspect of this incident of Adam. Now the second level, the moment that Allah says, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, you find that God is teaching a lesson. And that lesson is this, is that, oh mankind, don't think that you are something small. That when God chose his representative, he chose his representative to be a human being. And he sent them in the form of a human being. You know, there is another ayat in Surah Al-Isra, in the 17th chapter of the Quran, where Allah, he says, Ya Bani Adam, that, O son of Adam, we have preferred you over most of our creation, and we have given you that sustenance which is pure, and we have allowed you to go upon this land and upon the ocean. The key point of this verse that is worthy of paying attention to is Allah says, فَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَىٰ كَثِيرٍ مِمَّا, and we have preferred them over a majority of those individuals who we have created. The Mufassirin of the Quran, they discuss that what is it that is so great about a person that God with so much pride in the Quran is saying that, O human being, we have given you preference. Some groups, one group of Mufassirin, they said that this verse is referring to the fact that man is able to stand on 2 feet. That when you look amongst the animal kingdom, you find that this is something which gives benefit to man, the fact that they stand on 2 feet as opposed to all 4. But you find this view is very problematic. The second group of Mufassirun, they said, is that God gave mankind thumbs, that without the thumb, man wouldn't be able to create civilization. That if they were not able to grasp onto tools and carry out these different aspects of innovation, then you find that they wouldn't be able to do that without such as something as simple as this part of the body. But no, each of these reasons, they fall short, because they are referring to the material aspect of man's creation. But we know that there is a nature which is far beyond that within a human being. And that's why the third group of individuals, they said that the reason God has preferred mankind and the reason that Adam was the Khalifa of Allah is because God gave man something which he didn't give any other creation. And that entity is nothing other than the intellect of a human being. But over here, the question comes up, is that what is the intellect? Does it simply mean that we have the ability to understand things? You know, one of the companions of the Imams, he comes to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq salawatullahi wassalamuhu alayhi. He says to the Imam that ma'al aql, that what is the intellect? The Imam, he shows in this answer that yes, at the lowest level, the intellect means that you can understand things. But at the highest level, the intellect is that understanding which takes you towards God. He says that ma ubida bihir rahman wa maqtusiba bihil jinan, that you asked me that what is the intellect? The intellect is that entity through which Allah is worshipped. And the intellect is that entity through which paradise is acquired. So at that moment they say, فَمَا كَانَ فِي مُعَاوِيَةٍ. Then okay, you said that the intellect is that through which God is worshipped and paradise is acquired. Muawiyah was also an intelligent person. Then what do you say that understanding, that smartness which was in Muawiyah, what do you call that? The Imam says, Tilka nakra, tilka shaytana, wa hiya shabiyatun bil aqal, wa laysa bil aqal. The Imam says that is something which is satanic. In other words, it represents, it is similar, it looks like the intellect, but in reality, it is not the intellect. So those individuals who have that faculty of thought, that faculty of understanding, but that faculty of understanding is taking them away from God, in the truest sense of the word, we don't call that aqal, which has been bestowed upon mankind. Because aqal is that reality which elevated man to such a point that Allah says to the angels, prostrate before this human being. So you find the first incident in this story of Adam is that Allah said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Now when you come to the second level of the story, the moment God, He says that I am making this vicegerent, this caliph upon this earth, at that moment the angels, they reply by saying, قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُوا فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُوا فِيهَا وَيَسْفِقُ الدِّمَاءَ. The moment God creates Adam, and He says that this is my caliph, this is my representative, at that very moment, the angel said that you are going to create a creation who sheds blood upon this earth, and they are going to cause corruption. The question is that how did the angels know? It is the first time they're seeing a human being. They've never seen a human being before. The moment God says, I'm making him my representative, at that very moment, without seeing the thing before, they say that he is going to cause corruption and he is going to shed blood. Over here, there are three different understandings that the Mufassirun have brought forth. The first understanding, it stated, is that God gave them an insight into the future. That God, by virtue of them being angels and having a great position, God gave them an insight into the future, and because of that, they were able to say this. This is one understanding. A second understanding states that the moment Allah said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, they understood. What does that mean? That means the moment God said that I am going to make him a representative on the earth, they knew this would be problematic because this human being is being made from the material of the earth and he is going to live upon this earth. They recognized that this human being has such a nature that no matter how much of this earth you give towards him, he is not going to be satisfied. And because he is not satisfied and he is always seeking more and more, then you find he is going to cause corruption upon this earth. I mean, you look upon this world, there are individuals whom from our perspective, they seem to have everything. Wealth, whatever you can imagine from the material aspect of things, but then you hear that these individuals are on drugs or they're on pills, antidepressants. We're over here thinking that, man, you have everything in front of you. Why do you need antidepressants and all of these things? The answer is that there is another nature within a human being. And if that nature within his spirit is not catered towards, no matter how much of this world you give towards him, you find that he will not be satisfied. And when he is not satisfied, the angels, they allude to the fact that he is going to cause corruption, that he is going to shed blood upon this earth. So you find this is the second understanding. But the third understanding to this ayat, it states that no, that before Adam, there were a group of creation that even though they were not insan with the intellect, they looked like human beings. You see, we have many narrations from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam that when they understood this verse, for example, there's one narration found in Tafsir al-Ayashi, quoted from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Within that ayat, when they said to the Imam that, "Oh Imam, what does this verse mean?" The Imam replied by saying that the angels can't say that the human being will cause corruption and shed blood unless they already saw a creation that looked like insan that did the same thing. In other words, there are narrations that say before Adam was Adam, and before him was another Adam. And the exact wording of those narrations is that 1,000 upon 1,000. In other words, it's an expression in the Arabic language that there were many realms before you, and there were many Adams before you, and you are the final of those realms, and you have been given an intellect which others have not been given. So you find all three of these understandings, they come in towards this verse. So now the angels, they say that, okay, you are going to create a creation. He is going to shed blood. He is going to cause corruption. Now Allah replies to the angels. And Allah replies to them by saying, قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know what you don't know. In other words, there is an aspect of Adam that you are just looking at him from the outward material form. But I know something about the inner reality of this creation, and I will demonstrate that for you. So the next ayat after that, chapter 2, verse 31, it says, وَأَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثم أردهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئهم بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. The next portion, it states that God taught Adam the names, and then he presented those names in front of the angels. And he said to the angels, inform me what these names are if you are truthful. Over here at the second level, there's many questions that come up. And that question which comes up is that if we are saying at the beginning of this lecture, as I said, that the story of Adam is a representation of the story of mankind, of the human species, what does it mean when God says he taught Adam the names? And what relevance does that have for you and I, because we are not Adam in the literal sense of being Adam? At the first level, you find that when the Quran, it says that Allah taught Adam the names, this does not just mean words that he taught Adam, but rather it is the concept and the properties of those things which were named to Adam. Now the question comes that what are those things? At one level, there is a tradition of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. In that tradition, Imam al-Sadiq, he shows that these names were an all-encompassing reality. In other words, the Imam tells his companion that it includes the names of the mountains, and it includes the names of the valleys, and it includes the names of the riverbeds, to the extent that this carpet, the Imam is saying, that this carpet which I am sitting on, God even taught Adam the name of this carpet. So at one level, it is encompassing many different things. But then Allama Tabatabai mentioned something very interesting. He says that when you look at this ayat, within this verse, Allah, when He speaks to the angels, He says, فَأَنْبِئُوهُمْ بِأَسْمَاءِ هَؤُلَاءِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. He says to the angels that, okay, if you think that you are smarter than Adam, if you are higher than Adam, then inform me of the name of these. The word in Arabic which is used is ha'ula'i. The word ha'ula'i in the Arabic language is a demonstrative pronoun. It is an ismul ishara, but this demonstrative pronoun is only used for rational beings. It is not used for irrational beings. So there must have been some rational beings at that time that God is saying to the angels that I am pointing towards these individuals. And when I point towards them, now you tell me who they are. And over here, the traditions of Ahlul Bayt, they say that at the first level, it was Rasulullah. And at the second level, it was the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet. That Allah, He turns to Adam and He says that Ana al-Hamid wa hada Muhammad. That I am the one who is praiseworthy and this is the one who is Muhammad. وَشَقَقْتُ إِسْمُهُ مِنْ إِسْمِي. And I derived his name. وَشَقَقْتُ إِسْمَهُ مِنْ إِسْمِي. His name was derived from my name. You know, the name of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. That was your cue for a salawat. But the name of the Prophet Muhammad is a very interesting name. You know, when you look at many of the hadith which are related to the Mi'raj, the ascension of the Prophet, those hadith, they describe the Prophet with the name Ahmad. But when you look on the world, the famous name of the Prophet is Muhammad. So the question is, what is the difference between the name Ahmad and the name Muhammad? You see, a person who praises God, you call him Hamid. If somebody's name is Hamid, that name, it literally means that they praise God. But if somebody is praised, you call him Mahmud. So Hamid means the one who praises. Mahmud means the one who is praised. Then you have Ahmad. Ahmad means the one who praises the most. And the name Muhammad means the one who is praised the most. So you find wherever there is a Hamid, there is a Mahmud. Wherever there is a praiser, there is a praised. Wherever there is an Ahmad, there is a Muhammad. So if on this earth Rasulullah is called Muhammad, then Allah is the Ahmad. But if on the night of Mi'raj, Allah, He calls the Prophet Ahmad, that must mean in the realm of the heavens that Rasulullah is Ahmad and the title of Allah is Muhammad. So you find this is the status of the name of Rasulullah. And when Adam is there, Allah is saying, O Adam, I have taken his name from my name. And then after that he says, Ana fatiru samawati wal ard wa hadihi Fatima. That I am the one who originated the heavens and the earth, and this is Fatima. And then the tradition says that Ana al-Muhsin wa hada al-Hassan wa Ana al-Qadim al-Asan wa hada al-Hussein. That I am the one who is the virtuous, this is Hassan, this is Hussein. You know, Faiz Kashani, in his famous tafsir known as Tafsir al-Safi, he mentions something very interesting. He says that when you look at this hadith, when it came to Rasulullah in this hadith, all Allah says is, I am Mahmud, I am Hamid, this is Muhammad. He gives his name and he says that my name is derived from his name. For the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he does the same. For the name of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, he does the same. But he says that when you look at the hadith, when it came to the name of Fatima to Zahra, the majority of the hadith, they say that Allah said that I am Fatirus Samawati wal Ard, this is Fatima. And then after that, he added a line to show her status. And that line was that the reason she is called Fatima is that because of her, my mercy will be deprived from a certain group of individuals. You know, the word Fatima comes from the word fitam in the Arabic language. The word fitam is used when a woman is breastfeeding her child and you begin to take that child off of the breast milk, you take them away gradually. That's one meaning. Another meaning of this word is to separate. The reason she is called Fatima is that she is that barometer that will separate those who receive the mercy of Allah from those who will receive the adhab of Allah. And that's why the tradition, it says, Inna Allah yaghdibu li ghadabi Fatima wa yarda li ridaha. That Allah is angered when Fatima is angry. And Allah is pleased when Fatima is pleased. You know that nobody takes this responsibility for another person, that I represent them completely. But over here, Allah is saying that she represents me in such a way that when she is angry, it is as if de facto I am angry. So you find these names, these personalities, that at one level, yes, when the Quranic ayat says, وَأَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, at one level, it is referring to all of existence. But at the second level, the verse uses the pronoun for the rational. So at the second level, it is referring to Ahlul Bayt as well. So you find this is the next incident in the story of Adam. But the third incident, when it comes to Adam, which is a point of discussion and a point that we need to understand, is that when you look at the ayat of the Quran and you come towards the 34th verse of the Quran, Allah, He says, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ أُسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. That Allah, He says to the angels, now that I've shown you Adam's position, and I've shown you that he has been given the knowledge of these names, I want you to prostrate before him. And it says all of them prostrated except for Iblis. You know, many people, they ask the question that what is the evidence that when you go, for example, to the door of Ahlul Bayt, that you go with humility? And when you go to ziyarat, you walk slowly when you go towards ziyarah. As the Imam says, قَرِّبْ بَيْنَ خِطَاك, that walk slowly. That when you walk with humility. That when you go to the door of Imam al-Hussein, you kiss the door of Imam al-Hussein. What is the evidence for all of this? I say at the very first level, the evidence was shown when God created Adam. You reply, what do you mean the evidence was shown when God created Adam? The first command which Allah gave the angels is that do sajda in front of my Khalifa, my representative. In other words, do the ta'azim and the respect of those who represent me. So now the question isn't that should I come with etiquette? The question is that is this personality the representative of Allah or not? If he is the representative of Allah, then at that moment, adab, etiquette, respect, it becomes necessary upon an individual. So it says, Aba wastakbara, that the only of those entities that did not prostrate before Adam was Iblis. You see, when you try to understand Iblis, many of our communities, especially from the subcontinent, we made Iblis a lot stronger than he actually is. That, you know, if you do this, shaitan will come and shaitan will take you down the wrong path. But no, shaitan very clearly in the Quran, in Surah Ibrahim, in chapter 14, he says, وَمَا عَلَيْكُم مِّن سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. That the only authority I have is that I invite you and you accept. In other words, this is the extent of my control over you. And in another verse, when Allah says to Shaitan in another ayat, He says that ukhruj minha, get out of paradise. Shaitan replies by saying, La ughwiyannahum ajma'in illa ibadaka minhumul mukhlasin. That I will misguide everyone except for those whom Allah has made sincere. In other words, this incident between Adam and Iblis is showing that when it comes to Shaitan, Shaitan's authority is limited. It is only limited to those individuals who choose to go down that path. But those who stay upon the path of God, upon the path of Ahlul Bayt, you find those individuals are not affected from that reality. So you find all of these different incidents, they come together within the story of Nabi Adam. But the final thing, Adam, after he is expelled from paradise, and the expulsion of Adam, as you know, was an expulsion in a realm where there was no test and trial. That upon this world there is test and trial. In paradise, there is no realm of test and trial over there. But Allah had given an advice to Adam. Oftentimes, when we are given advice, it doesn't mean we have done something wrong if we go against that advice. It just means that there are consequences. For example, Allah advises us that when you cut a chicken, for example, you say Allahu Akbar, you slaughter it properly. This doesn't mean that it's wajib. It is advice from God. And the consequence of not doing that is that you're not able to eat it. Over here, Allah said to Adam, La taqraba hadhihi shajara. That do not approach this tree is my advice. And the consequence of not following my advice is that your path to the earth will be expedited. It will come much faster. Because God had already said that the position of Adam is that he is going to be a Khalifa upon this earth. Adam's position was not to remain in paradise forever. So you find after all of this, Allah, He says, وَتَلَقَّ آدَمُ كَلِمَاتٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ. The final thing that the story of Adam in this analysis demonstrates is that Adam, he turned back towards his Lord. You see, I am repeating this line again. I said at one level, Adam represents a personality in history. But at the second level, the story of Adam is teaching you, oh man, what does it mean to be an insan? And what this part of the discussion is showing is that in the way Adam turned back towards Allah, that if we are human beings, then it should be our nature to turn back towards God. You see, what does the word tawbah mean? Many people, they translate tawbah simply as forgiveness. But the word tawbah in the Arabic language, it comes from the word taba yatubu. And the word taba yatubu means to turn. That, oh human being, when you sinned, you turned away from God. But now you are turning back towards the Creator. So we find that is the reality of the word tawbah. You know, one individual, he comes to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. When he comes to Imam as-Sadiq, he says, oh Imam as-Sadiq, teach me the reality of tawbah, the reality of forgiveness. The Imam says, what do you mean? He says that oftentimes I mess up, using my own wording. He says that oftentimes I mess up, I make mistakes, but then I ask for forgiveness and I make those same mistakes again and I ask for forgiveness again and the cycle continues. You know what the Imam says to him? That person says, oh Imam, is there any forgiveness for me that I sin? And I ask for forgiveness, and I make the intention that I won't do that sin again, but I mess up again, and I'm in this cycle. The Imam says that every time you do this, Allah will forgive you. He says, what do you mean? The Imam says, have you not heard the verse of the Quran, Kataba Rabbukum ala nafsihi rahma? That your Lord has made mercy which is mandatory upon himself. You see, these ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, they were not ma'soom. But these are those personalities that would turn back towards Allah. And when they turn back towards God, God elevates their status so much that in their ziyarah, we do not just say, Salam be upon you, the companions of Imam al-Hussein. But we say, Assalamu alaikum ya ansara deen Allah. That, O ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, what you did for Hussein and Karbala made you the supporters of the religion of God. No further than that, it's not just Hussein you supported, but Assalamu alaikum ya ansara Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum ya ansara Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alaikum ya ansara Fatimatu Zahra. That by supporting Hussein, you became the supporters of Rasulullah, of Ali bin Abi Talib, of Janab al-Zahra, of Imam al-Hassan. And then the Imam says, Bi abi antum wa ummi. This line by Imam al-Sadiq. You see, this ziyarat, who is giving this ziyarat? Imam al-Sadiq is giving this ziyarat. And Imam al-Sadiq is speaking about the companions. Who is the father of Imam al-Sadiq? The father of Imam al-Sadiq is a ma'soom imam. But that imam, when you're speaking about the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada, he is saying, may my father who is an imam be sacrificed for you, O ashab of Hussein. That what did these companions do that they reserved, they got this status? You see, if you want to understand the virtue of these companions, the virtue of these companions is that because of them, the final member of the people of the cloak of Ashabul Kisar remained upon this earth. That one after another they would sacrifice themselves so Sayyid al-Shuhada could live upon the day of Ashura. And amongst those companions, each of them, they would join the Imam. But there is one companion that Sayyid al-Shuhada himself invited. And that companion is Habib ibn Madahir. That what is the maqam and the status of Habib? You know, the status of Habib ibn Madahir is this, is that when you go to Karbala, when you enter inside the shrine of the Imam, you see the grave of Habib, his resting place on your left side. In other words, when you do the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein one time, you do the ziyarat of Habib ibn Madahir 2 times. That who is this Habib ibn Madahir? It is stated that as the caravan of Imam al-Hussein reached Karbala, on the 2nd of Muharram, they arrive in Karbala. But on the other side, as the days are going, you find gradually the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, it becomes larger and larger. And as it's becoming larger and larger, some of the maqatil, they say in a sort of remembrance that they would say that perhaps the women would think that, is there any supporter who is coming for us now? Imam al-Hussein, he sends a letter. And he sends in that letter that min al-Hussein al-Gharib ila al-Rajul al-Faqih. That he describes Habib as a man of understanding. And when he describes himself, he says that I am that Hussein who is alone. When Habib, he sees that letter of Sayyid al-Shuhada, That letter, it invited Habib ibn Madahir, that it explained to Habib the circumstances that, oh Habib, such a day has come upon the grandson of Rasulullah that there are very few individuals to help us. You know, as Habib was looking at the letter, it is stated that the wife of Habib comes and she says, "Oh Habib, what is it?" Habib replies by saying that Hussein is in difficulty, that Hussein is asking for help. The wife of Habib says, "Oh Habib, what are you going to do?" Habib says, "I am still thinking through the matter." The wife of Habib replies by saying, "Oh Habib, the son of Fatima Zahra is calling you and you're thinking about this matter." Habib ibn Madahir says, "Oh woman, no, I just wanted to test your faith at this moment. Hussein is calling me." Habib ibn Madahir, he begins in the night time, he leaves the land of Kufa and he begins to go towards the land of Karbala. As he goes towards the land of Karbala, when the ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, they see that Habib ibn Madahir is coming, it is stated in some narrations that they began to say, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." At that moment, Sayyida Zainab, she heard these calls. She says, "Oh Fidda, go and find the news. Why are they reciting the takbir?" The moment Fidda, she goes, she returns. She says, "Oh Sayyida Zainab, Habib ibn Madahir, the companion of your grandfather, has come." Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh Fidda, go give my salams towards Habib." You know, when Habib, he comes into the land of Karbala, Fidda, she gives her salams towards Habib ibn Madahir on behalf of Sayyida Zainab. At that moment, Habib, he gets off of his horse, he sits upon the ground, he takes his turban off his head and he begins to cry. They say, "Oh Habib, why are you crying?" Habib, he says, "What day has come upon the family of Rasulullah that the granddaughter of the Prophet is sending her salams to a person like me, Habib ibn Madahir." You find Habib, he joins the caravan of Imam al-Hussein. You know, on the night before Ashura, it's stated that each of these companions, they would speak to one another. That Nafi would go in the middle of the night and Nafi, he would speak to other companions. But one of the dialogues which is mentioned about the night before Ashura is that Sayyida Zainab would go towards the tent of Sayyid al-Shuhada and she would say, "Oh my brother, have you tested these companions?" A narration, it mentions that Habibi heard the statement of Sayyida Zainab, that this Habib, he comes in front of the tent of Imam al-Hussein. He gathers many of the companions of the Imam, and when he gathers them, he says, "Oh granddaughter of Rasulullah, if you command us to chop our necks at this moment, then we'll chop our necks and they'll be placed before our feet. That we have come to demonstrate our loyalty towards Hussein." But then the day of Ashura, it comes. You find when the time it comes for Habib to go and fight upon the battlefield, Habib ibn Madahir, he begins to fight, but he was an elderly man at the end of the day. A point it comes when they strike Habib ibn Madahir. Habib, he falls towards the ground. When Habib falls towards the ground, it's stated that Muslim ibn al-Awsaja, he comes to get the body of Habib. Sayyid al-Shuhada comes to the body of Habib. As Habib is in his final moments, he says, "O Muslim, Usika biha shuhada. My only wasiyah, Muslim, towards you and the rest of the companions is that as long as you are alive, make sure that no arrow goes towards Hussein. Make sure that Hussein is not hurt, that Hussein is not killed. But I say, oh Habib, a point will come on the day of Ashura that Hussein will stand alone, and he'll be so alone that he'll see your body, he'll see the body of each of the companions, he'll begin to speak to the bodies of the companions, that the ghurbat of Sayyid al-Shuhada would be such that he would say, Ya Habib ibn Madahir, wa ya Muslim ibn al-Awsaja, wa ya Zuhair ibn al-Qain, ya Abtal al-Safa, wa ya Fursan al-Hija, mali unadikum fala tajibun. The Imam will say, oh Habib, oh Zuhair, why is it that I call you, but you don't reply to me anymore? ألا لعنة الله للقوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. You know, some of the later maqatil they mention, it's not mentioned in the earlier maqatil. It's stated that when this caravan, they went to Kufa, the wife of Habib saw one of the servants of Habib return. And she said that Hussein is the grandson of Rasulullah. They must have surely given a kafan, a shroud to Hussein. But Habib was one of the people of Kufa. They probably didn't give a shroud to Habib. Take this kafan and go back to Karbala and put this kafan on the body of Habib. When that servant, he goes to Karbala, in his hand was one kafan, but body after body laid within that land. He returns to the wife of Habib with that kafan. He says, oh lady, you only gave me one shroud, but there were body after body within that land which was laying there. We ask through the right of Habib ibn Madahir that, oh Allah, that you give us the spirit of loyalty within us towards Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. You give us tawfiq to benefit from the teachings of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. You grant us the ziyarah of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. You grant us the shafa'ah and the intercession of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And you allow us to see the return of the 12th of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Matam Hussein.